Not the Footy Show.
Forward sizzle.
Then obviously Kevvy. Who's he keeping the seat warm for, if anybody? G'day everybody, welcome to episode 280 of Not the Footy Show. It's season 2023. Roberto Cocksmith, I'm Warrick Nicolson. Mate, teams that have been done already on the roster and recruitment deep dives, they've been successful. People have watched them. Does anyone care about the Brisbane Broncos anymore, mate? Because what happened to them? They once the glamour club of rugby league, and now no one seems to care unless you live in Brisbane. What's going on?
They seem to have lost their shine a little bit, haven't they? And I'm not sure about the timeline. I mean, when do you think that they lost their? When do you think that they started to dip a little bit?
Well, they got rid of Benny after that grand final, and then, they got rid of Benny, and that was pretty acrimonious circumstances. But they'd also brought him back after realising they'd made the mistake of getting rid of him in the first place. To me, it's that shine. It's once Bennett moved on, they also decided that they had a genius to replace him. And that didn't go that fantastically well. But I think that the 2015 grand final, if they win that, I think they stay up in that glamour club level. Losing that sort of put them into that sort of back burner element. And you saw the Melbourne Storm and Roosters in particular, take that gap and take that role from them. And then obviously Penrith now. So I think it's more a case of other teams stepping up, as much as Brisbane obviously going backwards a little bit. But the glamour club, the shine, it's off a little bit. But Cocksmith, 2023 offers an opportunity to turn things around for them, because they went pretty big with their off-season signing in Reece Walsh, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a good pickup for them. Although let's be honest, Reece has played moments of first grade. He hasn't played a full season yet of first grade. He's still very young. He's had a few off-field demons as well. So I still say he's unproven. I still say that we haven't seen Reece Walsh play a season of NRL. And that's when you can start to rate players, I think, notwithstanding injuries and everything else. I think once you've seen him go through 15 games straight, week in, week out, then we're going to see the real Reece Walsh. And sometimes it takes players a few years. You look at Drinkwater up in North Queensland. He's really only come online this year as being a player that's probably worth the $600,000, $700,000, $800,000.
A regular difference maker.
Yeah,
rather than showing bits and pieces. Yeah. Bits
and pieces, which a lot of when I say a lot, a few juniors come in, a few young guys come in and flash it up in first grade, and then burn out very quickly and have to go back and figure out what they did right and wrong and work on their game in the lower grades. And I guess that's part of the development of an NRL player. Reece Walsh, though, is a very good pickup for them because last year they had a few different fullbacks. They started off with what's his name?
Osako.
Yep. So they started off with him, and I think he was going to be the next.
A couple of years he's been the next one, and then it was him keeping the seat warm for Tessie New, yeah. Then we heard Farnworth wanted to play fullback, and then they went and got Reece Walsh.
That's right, and I mean, even when the MILF got there first, they spoke about him as a fullback, because he'd pretty successfully played fullback for the Raiders. His height is obviously always going to be a problem for him, as we've spoken about before. But Reece Walsh is a good pickup, real live wire, real quick on his feet, a little bit unpredictable, and probably the kind of player that they need.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's where his fit looks good. And I want to get to the Kevvy Walters situation in a second, but before we talk about his tenure and ability to get a new contract, etc., it's pretty impressive what Kevvy's been able to do to go from being in charge when Reece Walsh went to the Warriors because he couldn't get his first grade money to getting him back to play first grade as his fullback on really big first grade money It's a fair effort from Kevvy Walters. I mean, he gets as these people that malign him, and people can argue, oh, it's the CEO or it's the old boys or it's Benny Ikin or whatever. But at the end of the day, Kevvy's made this happen. This is pretty impressive, I think.
Kevvy's made it happen, but also the dollars has made it happen, mate. I mean, let's not confuse things. I mean, it is fairly true, or a lot of it's fairly true. What Noel Cleal came out, ex-Manly great and Roosters great too, came out and said last week that in this era of footballers these days, they're loaded to the hilt with managers, and they get every last cent they can out of clubs. They milk it for every last cent, and it comes down to a business deal. And I guess that's the way that the new age footballer looks at it. And I don't think there's too many old school footballers around anymore that'll play for love and no money. And Reece has obviously got a team around him that's gotten the deal that they wanted from the Broncos. I don't think it mattered who's in charge. At the end of the day, mate, I mean, I know that they want to win competitions, but they also want to load their bank accounts. And if you're going to go to a club with somebody who you may or may not rate as a great coach, it's not going to matter that much if you're getting the big dollars. I'm here to do the business, and that's what it is. It's a business.
As you say that, that he's come to play for money, etc. And we're going to talk about another fullback that was in the Broncos system, apparently, in Selwyn Cobbo. I wonder if his comments were related to the fact that he didn't get the fullback gig from K. Walters and Reece Walsh was brought in above him. It's fascinating. I want to talk about Kevvy, and I've tried to be nice there and find a positive. And the big positive is I thought Broncos would finish last in 2022, and I was kind of wrong by a fair margin.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd finish last.
Kevvy deserves a lot of credit for finding a way to be the voice when you're struggling, to then being the voice when you're winning. Pardon me, speaking of voices. And what is lost is his tenure, his longevity in this role. Ben Ikin was brought in after Kevvy's been made coach, and Ben Ikin is, as we've seen on Fox, etc., he was pretty honest about he's going to change this club. They've got Dave Donaghy as the CEO from Melbourne. There are things in place that look more long-term than Kevvy, I guess is what I'm getting at. And the thing with Kevvy is his team was in the top 4 mix most of last year, then they fell away towards the end. 2 questions for you. What has Kevvy got to do to keep his job? But second, if he doesn't keep his job, who's he keeping it warm for? Like, is there a name that's even out there that makes any sense? Is there someone that you've heard in the grapevine that might actually walk into that gig? I know it's a 2-part question, but what keeps him in the gig? And if it's not, who's he keeping it warm for?
I'm not sure he can stay in the gig. I'm not sure that much past next year he will be coached there, barring a top 4 finish in the premiership, in the minor premiership. I can't see him. He seems to be. They seem to be waiting for something, and I don't believe it's Bellamy. I think Bellamy's kind of, what's Bellier? He's about 64 years old, 63, 64 years old.
Yeah. And he's openly said for 5 years, it's my last year. Yeah. And Brisbane have had cracks at him. Brisbane have definitely had cracks at him in the last, decade.
Well, see, I'm old enough to remember when Bellyache was their head coach, was their head trainer at the Broncos. When I first started shooting football, he was the head trainer and Bennett was coach.
Fun fact, Canberra chose Matt Elliott over Craig Bellamy. Fun fact.
Yeah. Anyway, look, I think he is. There are quite a few young coaches that could come in. I still think that they would probably need a coaching director of sorts if they're going to do that. Guys like Jason Riles could come in and do the job. Who he's highly regarded at the moment. But then again, we do have a couple of youngish coaches or rookie youngish coaches in the NRL at the moment that are, Adam O'Brien. I've got to give him a D for last year, or an E. Justin Holbrook, not doing much at the Titans, and they're young guys that were pretty highly regarded, untested, coming in.
Holbrook had coached in the Super League, mate.
Yeah, but not in the. But he hadn't been a head coach in the NRL, and and he hadn't. But they're highly regarded, and the NRL is a bit of a different beast to everything else. So, do the Broncos? I don't think Kevin's doing a terrible job. Do they want to shove him for somebody that may not be proven? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the way they want to go. But if they do get a young coach, they have to have a coaching director. And does Kevvy go into that job, or does another senior figure like Bellamy come in? I don't know. This is a puzzle that doesn't seem to have an end for me.
I've got a theory for you. I got to
go on, toss it up.
One. So the narrative around Kay Walters in the last 12 months has been nice fella, inspirational, can get players, ready for the game, but can't coach. No, he's not an excellent guys.
I see him as an assistant coach.
Yeah, that's the rap from the players and the chat around. And everybody seems to point to one guy as the guy who's more of the coach for Brisbane in A. Reynolds. I have a theory, Cocksmith, that Kevvy's warming the seat for ARey.
You really think that Renault's going to graduate after playing with these guys for 2 or 3 years?
I don't think it's by accident that we're hearing about how good a planner and game creator and the like that ARey's been off the field, not just on the field for Brisbane. I have a feeling that he's off contract at the end of next year, so at the end of 2024. I have a feeling you'll see him go straight into the job because I don't think there is a standout candidate out there. I know you spoke about Riles and a few others, but I don't think they're going to retread. I think this is Brisbane's game here. They've convinced ARey to come up and uproot from Sydney and go to Brisbane. He keeps saying he loves it up there. He's getting paid over $1 million a year to be the player in his golden years. How long does the body last? It may only last this season, Cocksmith. He may not go into 2024. And if he's got this rapport with all the young fellas and Reece Walsh comes in and plays a year with ARey, you can put it down as a speculator, but I don't see another standout candidate out there that makes more sense than ARey taking over as head coach in 2024 or 25.
A lot can happen. We do still have a couple of coaches that aren't coaching. Remember that. I mean, and I always refer to him first, and I don't even really know him, and he's never really, But Jeff Tuvey's a guy that could still coach. Why hasn't he got a coach's job? He if you have a look at his record with Manly, it was pretty good. Better than Holbrook.
We did recently on one of the recruitment whisperers. We talked about that. Yeah.
Better than O'Brien. Probably better than Kevin. You could do worse, but yeah, who knows, mate? I just with a few comments that have been coming out. I think it was Cobbo and who was the other one?
Gamble
that had a little. Who was it?
Gamble was out the door. He was going out the door when he said it. Yeah,
they both had a shot at Kevvy and his coaching or lack of ability in that department. Probably pretty flippant comments from one guy who's leaving. You can expect a parting shot, but another guy who's there and a young guy that's highly regarded
and has been looked after by Kay Walters for a lot of off-field stuff that hasn't been exactly professional.
It's a little eye-opening, and you've got to wonder what the thoughts are there when you make a comment like that. I mean, a lot of people say, they're on a podcast, they get relaxed, they have a beer, and they don't know what they're saying. Please. I know they're being recorded. You go to someone's house or if you go to someone's office and they pull out the cameras and the mic, you don't want to say stuff that could haunt you later on. It doesn't matter how comfortable you get.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't think Kevvy's there for long, mate. I think if they fail to make the 8 this year, he's gone. He's finished.
In speaking of timelines, they start the year poorly and they'll punt him. That's my theory. They were 9th in 2022.
But hold on. Don't just carry on like that. Who fills in for him then? We're going to get a captain coach, are we?
Ikin. Ikin can do everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're just going to flick him before.
This goes back to my opener. Cocksmith. They can't see or accept their team not being one of the golden clubs, and if they stumble out of the gate after the year of hope that was last year, I think that they could make a move up there, and that's not really fair on Kevvy, but it's what it is. And I'm sticking with the narrative. ARey, coach.
Who's his main assistant up there, mate?
He's had about 3, hasn't he? I thought he had Terry Madison and Steve Walters was there, and a few, but he's moved a few on. I don't even know. Couldn't even tell you who's actually still on staff. John Cartwright was there, and
we'll have to look that up. We'll have to keep our eyes open when the season begins. All right.
So Reece Walsh comes in. He's the big ticket item. They signed money to Power, who got a contract, and it's kind of surprising that he ended up at the Broncos because they seem to have been really hitching their wagon to young forwards as of late, and they've brought in a veteran who, to be honest, I felt he tapered away pretty ordinarily towards the end of last year. He wasn't being given those important minutes by Manly, by a coach that had him for a while, and D Hasler. Maybe Desi knew what was going on, but he's had an off season to be ready and train by himself, which may freshen him up. He's almost had his holiday. What do you make of it? I don't see it as more of a bench rotation role.
Well, as far as Desi goes, Desi got fired. By the way, he's another coach that's available for employment. He got fired. Maybe there was a falling out. Maybe Marty wasn't trusted as much. I don't know. Marty's not getting any younger, but I think he still offers something. And I think, if you look at the forward pack that they've got here in Haas, Flegler, Ricky, maybe not Capewell, but Carrigan, they're all young, and they probably could do with an old head around them. I don't mind it, to be honest with you, to Power going up there. I'll be honest, I like Marty as a bloke. I think he's a really good fella as well.
Just seems like a shift in philosophy, which is surprising.
But maybe they need that. Maybe they need it. How'd they go last year? Marty comes in. Look, he'll do the job for a year or two. Probably the first year will be the most valuable year. And I know that he's a bit of a motivator as well, Marty. People like to have him around. So, we'll see what happens.
The other pickups, Jock Madden declared he didn't want to stay at the Tigers if he wasn't starting, and now he's signed to play behind Adam Reynolds. We did cover that off in the recruitment whisperers. He's just depth. JC Arthurs comes back from a season-long loan at the Warriors. And they've also got a hooker who's been in the Melbourne system, Tyson Smoothie, who's on a dev contract. They're the main veterans that come in. But the list that goes out, this is very similar to what the Bulldogs and the Tigers have done. And I'm going to give Ikin and Donaghy and Walters credit here. They've started to clear the dead weight, Cocksmith, which is what you got to do if you're going to turn your club around. Tessie News gone, Jermaine Asako, Brenko Lee, Tamari Martin, Tyson Gamble, Jake Turpin, Zach Hosking, Ryan James, and David Mead. They were all part of the squad last year who have been moved on. Again, a group of 8 players. Your roster's 30. That's a quarter of your roster.
Nearly
it's the way to do it. And Keenan Pelosi has gone to the Titans for next year. And it meant that they've had to promote some youth. And there's a batch of young players that are coming through, which are going to follow the likes of the Ezra Mams and the Jordan Rickies, who have made their name known in the last 2 years. I want to talk about Ezra Mam quickly, and this refers more to and we'll go to their team in a second, but I want to talk about the fact that I think the fit that he has now amongst ARey and Walsh is perfect for him because I think he's a runner.
Well, he needs to do more than he did last year, mate. Honestly. I mean, I didn't find it that impressive what he got up to last year. I need to see a lot more from him. If you're going to be a 5'8" in the Broncos jersey, you need to be doing more. You need to be more effective. In fact, I see Reece Walsh as probably a nice fit in the 6 jersey. Maybe not straight away, but
okay. So again, the issue that we talk about the Ponga thing, which is still crazy, but you got a guy who doesn't want the heavy traffic coming at him, and so plays fullback, and we're going to move him to the line. Doesn't make as much sense.
I think it's where you can be most effective, mate. And Reece Walsh with the ball in his hands is really effective. And is he best at 1 or is he best at 6? If
your halfback's Reynolds, I think 1, because he's going to touch the ball all the time. I don't think you need to be in that first receiver role, which some 5'8s play. But he's a support player. I like him.
If that's the case, I mean, if you're going to do that, you could virtually put Carrigan at 6, and have someone running like that. So I know what you're saying, but I don't see, maybe not this year, I don't see Walsh getting the 6 on this year, but going forward, he's that kind of player that could. And then if you've got another option like Cobbo, who could play fullback,
well,
then
he's not even the next in line, I don't think, mate. I think the next in line is
Farnsworth.
Herbie wants his money, and Herbie wants his fullback money.
And then he'll happily retire back to the 3 or 4.
Jordan Ricky, what's your take on him? Because I think he's a little bit overhyped.
I think he's been pumped up a little bit too much. But again, he's one of those players. Just when you forget he's there, he'll pop up and you're like, whoa.
Every sort of 4 to 5 games, you go, oh, that's why he's starting and playing. It's not an edge.
He's only young though, isn't he? What is he? 23.
Yeah, he's in the sort of early 20s. He's got some. But my thing with him is I just don't know whether he's got the. When I say extra dimensions, I don't mean always in a attacking sense. I want to see him be a shutdown back rower if he's going to play on that edge and look after ARey. Capewell, he's offered him good value, but he's a complimentary player, Cocksmith. Not a star. And you add that to the Haas Carrigan show, both quality last season. You'd actually argue that Haas maybe had a down year last year.
I think so.
Going on, but Carrigan certainly bounced back from his knee reco. Flegler's the other one that fits in the Ricky mold of you want to see more from. And from what they understand to be, he's supposedly on like a big contract already. He's the other bloke that's off contract. So the 2 big guys off contract for them for 2024 are Farnworth and Flegler. And it's a big time for Flegler to stand up and say, well, I didn't just play Origin for no reason. And can I keep Marty on the bench? We've got some pretty okay support guys in Jensen, Hetherington. Palissy is pretty good depth. I want to take. Have you got the team in front of you that we're predicting for round 1? Do you want to go through it?
Yeah. So you got Walsh at fullback. You got Corey Oates and Selwyn Cobbo on the wings. Katoni Staggs and Herbie Farnworth in the centres. Ezra Mam 5'8", Adam Reynolds halfback. Patrick Carrigan lock. Second rowers Jordan Ricky and Kurt Capewell. Front rowers are Thomas Flegler, Payne Haas, and you've gone for a real surprise, I think, here. And you put the golden child, Billy Walters, at hooker.
I think he's their best hooking option.
You don't think Corey Pace is better?
No.
Okay, I disagree.
But I don't rate either of them that highly. That's the problem.
I disagree. I'd put Corey in there. I think he's a better, more attacking and offers a little bit more out of dummy half than Billy. I think Billy's very safe. And I think Billy's got his job there because of his surname, to be honest with you. I mean, I know that sounds harsh.
I actually think he's a bit of a spark plug. I don't mind it. If you're gonna, I haven't seen anything from Pakes that says, "Wow, I've got to play him in first grade." So you'd argue he looks safer to me than Walters.
Okay.
But about time we disagree on something. Corey Pakes is on the bench. KB Hetherington, Tapau, and Jensen. Jensen, good value for him last year. Hetherington, he looks like he's good enough to play starting minutes, but the problem there is they've got a packed back row, and I haven't even got to probably their best forward prospect, and he's not even in the 17. There's not much to dislike about that 17, I don't think, Cocksmith.
I see deficiencies everywhere, but that's a salary cap thing, and not everywhere. I see deficiencies in certain places, but with every team. But I don't think it's a bad team at all. And if Adam Reynolds stays fit, which is the big asterisk, but if he does, then you've got your leader on the field, and he does control games very, very well. Maybe arguably one of the top game managers in the game at the moment. And, he controls the tempo, he controls the direction they're going. He's all talk. He's a great halfback.
I really like that.
Let's hope his body holds up. You like their back line?
Like that. Yeah. They've got tries in them. Oates, Staggs, Farnworth, Cobbo. There's tries there.
I agree.
There. And I don't think you've got a halfback who's not going to pass the ball or kick the ball or try things. That's why I think Mam fits the gap a little bit as a support player rather than a playmaker, because Walsh can play that second playmaker role alongside Reynolds. The big hole, though, Cocksmith, as much as I like the Stags and the Cobbos, etc., is at 9. the fact that we're both sitting here going, one of us likes Walters, one of us likes Pakes, says everything.
And we don't.
There isn't one.
And let's be honest. I mean, without disrespecting those players too much, but if you were building a team, your team, would you have either of them anywhere near the team? No. I don't think so.
They do have a shining light. We'll get to the prospects now, and this is always interesting when it comes to Brisbane because they generally have the pick of the Queensland talent. That's just the way it works. They identify them really early. They give them lots of money, and then they try and hold on to them. They've got a few. They've got Brendan Piakura, who is a back rower who's played 2 games of first grade. He actually finally showed something of note at the World Cup for the Cook Islands, but his body hasn't held together for him, Cocksmith, to end up in first grade. And it looks like there's 2 blokes sitting ahead of him that are going to get the first crack, if not for the whole season, but for a couple of years in Capewell and Ricky. So Piakura's got a massive job to get, a regular spot in first grade that's not just on the bench. You got Dean Mariner, who's a hyped outside back, who got a couple of games, I think, at the end of last year. I still haven't seen enough to say, wow, he forced his way into that 3-quarter line.
Yeah.
The name that everybody in Brisbane is talking about is Blake Moser. The next Cameron Smith, other words have been used from Brisbane people about this kid already. I haven't seen him play. I don't know his style, only based on what you read. But fair amount of pressure on a young bloke who is in the top 30. He is eligible for first grade as of round 1, Cocksmith.
Yeah.
Does Kevvy throw a Hail Mary and just go, well, I love your son, but you go onto the bench, Corey Pakes misses out, and they give this Moser kid a chance?
Moser.
Is this what Kevvy's going to have to do to keep his job, I guess is what I'm asking.
I don't know if he does it in round 1, but I'll tell you, if they don't fire by about round 3, Moser will be a first grade player. I don't think Kevvy's afraid to do that. I don't think he's afraid to take chances like that, especially if the pressure starts to load up and they lose 1 or 2 out of their first couple. I think he starts to look for answers, and must be very frustrating for Kevvy because he's been there for 2 full years, right? So, and quite often he's asked the question and the team hasn't answered. And as a lot of old hardhead footballers have said, there's only 2 things to change in a football team. That's the coach or the players. And if the players aren't doing it for you, you as a coach that's in control, you start to rotate them and you start to bring in people as many as you can, given the cap and everything like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised that in the first half dozen games, Moser gets his chance if they're not pumping.
I think they're sort of going to be forced down this route because we've identified their forward pack's pretty good.
Yeah,
their back line's got points in them. They've got 2 gun players in their spine, but they have a massive hole at hooker. It's
a big hole. It's a big hole, and
it's the reason I haven't got them in the 8, Cocksmith.
Well, let me ask you this:
Yeah.
If they had recruited Coruscant last year, what would you think?
There's no reason they don't make the finals if they've got a player like that at 9. And the beauty of a guy like him is he knows how to play with gun halves. He's done it. I think he's played with Reynolds before, hasn't he? When he was at South.
Yes, yeah, he would have. Yeah, they would have played that grand final together.
I mean, we talk about good recruitment from teams, and Tigers did really well, but we touched on it on the Dragons pod. Why wasn't there a bigger market for Appy Coruscant? I
don't know.
It's really surprising.
I don't know, mate.
There's one other prospect they do have in the system who had a knee recon, I think, last year. He's had a few issues. His name's Xavier Willis, and he's a big unit forward. And unfortunately, TC Rabati's got in trouble with the law, so I don't think he'll be anywhere near first grade. They have other depths in Jesse Arthur's quickly. Deloise Hota, Jordan Pereira, and Logan Bayliss, the other big names in the
just on TC Rabati being in trouble off the field. How do you think Payne Haas is going to go this year? Given we know that certain members of his family have had some big problems with the law. That's got to be a distraction, don't you think?
Well, I'm just waiting for the inevitable. I want a contract upgrade again.
I guess we'll wait and see.
That seems to be one of the things that he focuses on during the season. It's sad.
He's a businessman.
He is.
He's a businessman.
And he's also realizing that he's a big boy whose body may not last for the normal duration of the thing. I get it. I understand why that's his mentality.
Okay, so you don't have him. You don't have him in the 8.
I've got in with tiers. We talked about tiers. Got 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 14, 15 to 17. I've got him back in the 11 to 14 role. I think the lack of hooker, and I don't trust the way this team has been managed, and that's not just on Kevvy. I think that's the biggest problem they've got, is that the players are running around eggshells around him, and the worry that they start badly and he ends up out of the job. I just don't think that combines to go, got to have him in the top 8. And so then I've got to ask myself, are they in the 9 and 10 spots, which is that next tier? And I'm not convinced. So I've got him down in 12th, Cocksmith. I've got him going backwards, even with Reece, Walsh and Tapau joining the squad and getting rid of dead weight. It doesn't make sense, but I had him 16th last year, so I've got him up by 4. So look at that positive.
I got him finishing 10th. I say they don't make the 8. I've got him finishing 10th.
So the 5 to 10 bracket for you. Yep.
Yeah.
You got him going backwards as well.
Yeah, and I see Kevvy losing his job.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know who to at the moment, but I've got an open mind as far as you say about Reynolds. It could happen. I doubt it will, only because he's so recently been playing football. But I think he's going to have to do a 2 or 3 year apprenticeship somewhere, somehow. I don't doubt that he'd make a good coach. He is a good communicator, a good bloke, very smart footballer. But I see, to finish that Broncos thing up, mate, I see that they have made some improvements. I just don't know if it's going to translate to the field to where they want the success to be. I think Dave Donaghy and your mate Benny are going to be looking for a new head coach.
At the very least, a coaching director, as you said before.
Yep.
I boil everything to Brisbane down to the hamstrings of ARey. Adam Reynolds' hamstrings hold up, then I'm going to look like I'll have egg on my face again for 2 straight years. But that's my concern. I just can't see them staying together, and if he's not there, that's Brisbane. No matter how good your back line, it's ARey.
Could they have sent him to the hamstring whisperer?
Hey, he's got I think
they should have.
Your stint's over. We established that you came through with flying colours with your visit. Tommy's over there now. Paps is back. Why not? Why not?
Why not? Exactly.
Why not? That's episode 280, everybody, of Not the Footy Show. We're just running out of Zoom time, Cocksmith. So unless there's anything you really wanted to jump on before we wrap, I think that'll do us. Not
right now, mate. But I'm good to do another pod over the weekend if you want, but probably Sunday afternoon.
I'm not playing cricket. We are on like Donkey Kong. That's all depends on my body and my hamstrings holding up. So maybe I should be the one visiting the man in Philly. That's episode 280, the Brisbane Broncos deep dive, roster and recruitment for 2023. Where you got Brisbane? Those legends of you out there watching on YouTube, keep coming with the comments. Lots of people are watching the last couple episodes, so we really appreciate it. And you're watching for a long time. So thank you very much. Cocksmith, I think it's time for you to give us your best David Beckham again, because words filtering through. McArdle, he's still not impressed.
No, McArdle. Pepsi.
Not the Footy Show.
Actually, he does it up. Pepsi. I don't know.
Pepsi.
Not the Footy Show.
You been sleeping over there?
Pepsi.